Hey friends, I wanted to make a couple of videos about different aspects of my playbook. These sort of like tactics or approaches that have worked well for me, that I use with my own projects that I want to spread and that I think will work for you. Most of these I've written about before in different places, but sometimes it's helpful to talk about them and hear them verbally, get them transmitted visually. One of the things that I do with projects is to consider whether a project is small, medium, or large. And the largest projects are the biggest ones you've ever done. They may not be the biggest projects in the history of the world, but they're big projects for you. And a small project is one that you can do in a day or 2 days or a week. Really short time frames. Pretty simple also. Something that you've done before that's doesn't have too many new, complicated, complex elements. Something that's more known. So it's about both size and scale of time, scale of impact, also complexity and how involved it is, how much of a headache it is. And then of course medium projects are in between. So you can think about projects you've done in the past, which ones were small, which ones were medium, which ones were large. And importantly, you can think about your current and future projects in terms of these scales. So one way that I really like to apply this is when I have a new collaborator. If there's someone that I meet that I really like, that I hit it off with, there's a lot of resonance, we have a lot of shared interests, then I'm excited. One of my favorite things to do with someone as a friend is to collaborate on a project. And the best kind of project to collaborate on is a small project. A small project. You want to start with a small project. Let me say again, start with a small project. Often when we have a ton of resonance with someone, there's a tendency to jump right into a medium or a large project. Be like, why don't we plan a week-long retreat together, or a huge party, or let's direct a film, or let's write a book together. And I admire the ambition, truly. I admire that desire for greatness, the sense of let's not hesitate. And also in practice, it's really good to do small projects together that are low stakes, safe to fail, easy to do, and just see how that goes. First off, if the project goes well, great. You can move on to doing a bigger project or just doing another project. And if it goes poorly, it's like, hey, that wasn't that fun. Then it's fine. It doesn't matter. You haven't really failed at anything. If you totally mess it up, then, in terms of money, for example, a small project hopefully doesn't cost more than $100 or $200, or it's free. You haven't wasted a lot of money. That's another dimension as well as money, of course. A large project could involve thousands or tens or hundreds or thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Depends on your scale of ambition. But a small project, it's like, oh, well, that just didn't go that well. That wasn't that fun. It didn't work. Then it doesn't matter. It's small enough that you can just shrug and move on. Even with Mary, my collaborator in the empowerment department, when I first met her, famous story, of course, at this point for me is that I pitched her on working together for 30 or 40 years. And even within that, we started with small projects. We did like a day-long project was our first one. And then we built up, we kind of went to a medium one pretty quickly. We did a 5-week cohort project right after that, but it went well. It was a good bet. That's sort of the counterexample that proves the rule, the exception that proves the rule. Most every other time that I've ever done big projects right away with someone, I've regretted it. It hasn't gone well. You haven't built up enough shared context and enough shared knowledge of how you work, of what works well. You're probably both bringing in a ton of assumptions about each other, about the work that you haven't validated through experience or communicated to each other. And a small project gives you a chance to communicate those to each other, to discover those assumptions, to bump into them, to make mistakes even, and have it be okay. So in best practice for me, often looks like doing several small projects with a new collaborator, then doing a medium project. If that medium project goes well, then doing several medium projects. And only then, when you've done 6, 7, 8 projects, then you can consider doing a large project together. And of course, over time, as you do more and more projects and your collaborators become more and more skilled, then what a large project is gets bigger and bigger. Your shared capacity for executing gets larger, but you build up over time. You have to earn the bigger projects. You have to work up to them. And it's worth being patient with this. You don't want to get burned by going too big too quick. And of course, this best practice also applies to new kinds of projects. You may be working with existing collaborators, people you've worked with before, but you're trying something totally new. Then it's best to try something small first. For example, in the empowerment department, we were considering doing some in-person workshops this year. That didn't end up making sense for a variety of reasons to do at this time, but we wanted to do a smaller offering first and sort of more safe to fail. That was something we were really considering. And that's a good best practice rather than jumping into the biggest, best version that you can immediately. It goes better when you kind of put your work in, put the effort into smaller projects. You put the reps in, you learn what you need to learn from it, and then build up over time. So you can think of past, present projects you've done or are doing, future projects you might want to do or considering doing, and kind of consider, is this a small project? Is this a medium project? Is this a large project? And how does that change how I'm approaching this? Is that the right scale for this project? Should this be a smaller project? Should this be a bigger project? And adjusting accordingly, just keeping that in the back of your mind. Also communicating about that with your collaborators. Hey, do we agree this is a small project? Do we agree this is a medium project? Do we agree this is a large project? What do we want to do about that? Just having that vocabulary available collectively can be really important. Coming to terms with what you want, what do you expect it to be, and adjusting accordingly. So it's really helped me to think about project size, scope, scale, small, medium, large, and I hope it helps you too.